let's talk about this semifinal matchup with Costa Rica and the United States. We're going to talk about the opposition first. We're going to absolutely shine light a little bit first on En Las Ticas. Let's talk about them and how they have been performing throughout this CONCACAF championship and what they could present in the histories between these two teams specifically. They've actually faced each other in a similar scenario, Lisa. Last time they met was during an Olympic qualifying. So things that were restructured a bit going into 2022 and beyond for CONCACAF W. Obviously, this championship, this tournament has a little bit more implications in terms of qualification. It's not just going to be the World Cup. It's 4 teams clinching their spot, but there's the winner of the tournament also gets a direct spot to the Olympics, and the second place finisher, the loser of the final, essentially, and the third place winner of this tournament will compete at a later date for the other Olympic qualifying spot. And there's also the spot for the Gold Cup coming up in 2024 as well. So there's a little bit different implications, I think, if you are a team that finds themselves competing in this CONCACAF W Championship semifinal. There has to be this whole, you want to focus on the game in front of you 100%, but there's some other things at stake, I think, which makes which probably elevates, I think, perhaps the level of competition that we're going to see. Because in 2020, when there was an Olympic qualifying tournament in groups broken down into 4 and 4 going against each other, Costa Rica and the United States closed out their group play, and it was a 6-0 scoreline between these two teams. And they had, I believe, if memory serves me correct, there was already like a 3-goal lead by the United States at halftime during that match against Costa Rica. So just a little bit of a different energy, I think, maybe looking at 2 years ago versus now, Lisa, because we talked a little bit, you gave the facts about this tournament and some of the things that we've been seeing between these teams. Obviously VAR, something that we want to pay attention to, but this matchup's going to look a little bit different. There were a certain amount of players that were part of that roster on the U.S. side of things going up against Costa Rica that are going to be unavailable for this one. The Costa Rican women's national team obviously is a team that has shown us that they've been sort of growing and evolving themselves throughout their time in CONCACAF. I feel like the captain of their team in Alvarado has had a really impressive showing so far.
Yeah,
this tournament plays her club soccer with the Deportivo Saprissa, which is a huge club in Costa Rica, but has been captaining the team, has been rocking the armband for this team, right? I think folks who have maybe followed Costa Rica for a little bit are maybe used to seeing somebody like a Shirley Cruz wearing that, or even maybe somebody like a Rocky Rodriguez. But it's been very cool to sort of see this team putting together the performances that they've been putting during this CONCACAF championship.
It definitely is. And I think that when you talk about a player like Alvarado, that has stepped up in this tournament and wearing that armband, she's got a goal apiece in the Panama game and the Trinidad and Tobago match, 2 games in which Costa Rica shut out their opponents. And I think that's pretty important and crucial to talk about because they have. So 7 goals scored for Costa Rica across 3 matches, but they were shut out by Canada in their last match, and 4 goal scorers, and Alvarado getting a goal in each of those games, and then Granados having a brace versus Trinidad and Tobago. Otherwise, just singular players scoring goals. But in terms of Costa Rica and what they're doing throughout this tournament, I think something that they need to really focus on and what I've been impressed with, but also game management and things like that. Because against Panama in the opening 6 minutes, Costa Rica got on the board first, and they started this game quick and strong. They followed it up in the 24th minute, getting another goal. It was implementing their game against Panama quickly and really bringing the game to them, scoring in a variety of ways off a set piece. They ended up getting a PK in that game in the second half of that match around the hour mark, and that it will round out the 3 goals against Panama. Then against Trinidad and Tobago, they open the first 15 minutes. They get a goal, and I think around the 14th minute of this match, and end up getting a second one before halftime in the 44th minute. So in their first 2 matches of this group stages, Costa Rica scored. They were up 2-0 heading into halftime for both of those matches. I think that's really impressive to see against this Costa Rican side, because not only are they starting these games quick and getting goals, but they're also following it up with another one. Now, on the other side of that, against Canada in this last group stage match, Canada scored in the first 5 minutes against Costa Rica. So I think there's something that's got to be said about game management and the opening 10, 15 minutes of a match, especially in these types of environments. We've talked a little bit about how hot it is in Mexico. It's over 100 degrees at kickoff of these 7 o'clock Eastern, so it's 6 local games. And that's incredibly hot. Now, for the later games kicking off at 9 o'clock local, the sun has gone down. It's a little bit cooler, but it's so crucial how these teams start the game, because as the 90 minutes goes on, there's only so much player rotation, and it comes down to minute management and game management, so much of it. So when we look at Costa Rica and now as they prepare to play against the United States, and you talked a little bit about the history between these two sides, this will be the 17th meeting, and the U.S. has won 16 of those. So there's a lot riding on this. Costa Rica is also looking to qualify for the Olympics, as is the United States. But Costa Rica is coming off of that match against Canada, where they conceded in the first 5 minutes. And then they conceded another one around the 70th minute mark. I think that gives Costa Rica an advantage over the United States, because they've scored in the first 5 minutes, in the first 15 minutes, and then they've also conceded. And most recently, they've conceded. So they can look back at that Canada match and say, how do we not concede in the first 5 minutes? Because this was the Olympic gold medalist, the reigning Olympic gold medalist in Canada. And now we're going up against the reigning world champions in the United States. And it's probably going to be a little bit tougher than that Canada match. So defensively, what do they need to do? And personally, I think that Costa Rica is going to sit back a little bit, have a little bit more density in their back line. But if they get that opportunity to go, they are off. They're going to move in transition, and that's how they're going to get their advantage, hands down.
I think it's important that you're bringing up the game management points for Costa Rica. Because you can't have, like, we also bring up that stat, right? The fact that it's 16, to 16 matches out of 17 matches that the United States have come out on the winning side of these things. And I think it's important for Costa Rica to sort of look back on those games, as the one specifically that you're talking about. But there's also, I do wonder, perhaps there's maybe a little bit of a blueprint here as well that Costa Rica can look at in this most recent matchup that the United States had against Mexico, where, we're talking about holding them through to 89 minutes of a scoreless game. And this is an 89 minutes where they had a Lindsay Herrera on the pitch, where they had Andy Sullivan on the pitch, they had Alex Morgan on the pitch. I'm just curious if this is something that they will try to piggyback in terms of when they're looking at the footage, or they're going over the tape from those games that they had during their Group B group stage, and then looking at what the United States has been not presenting themselves as a unit, but what they've been facing in terms of the other oppositions, what the oppositions have been presenting to the United States, like how they can sort of maybe pick and choose and find a way to better game plan for that. Yeah. But I'm not too sure. I think if this game starts out and Costa Rica fails to do that, with managing the game and concedes within the opening even 20 minutes, I'll say, of this game, not even, I was going to say like 10 to 15, but even if they allow goal scoring in the opening 20 minutes of this game, I think that's going to be a tough day.
Yes.
Costa Rican side. And it's unfortunate because this is a team that I've been impressed with over their duration of performances within the Concacaf qualifying process, because this is a team that we've been paying attention to, Lisa, for quite some time. Like, obviously outside of these tournaments, but specifically in this calendar year, this was a team that we saw, run their group during the Concacaf qualifiers to get to this point, right, to get to this championship point. They had a ton of games in February and in April where they did not look like, they were going to be skipping a beat. I liked the fact that they had set up their preparation matches ahead of this tournament against Haiti. And those were some difficult matches for them to come out on top of. We're talking a narrow victory 2-1 against Haiti in their first friendly, and then a loss against Haiti in the second one. So it was just something for them I thought it was a good prep because it's like these were the type of teams that you're going to be facing. You're potentially going to actually see Haiti in this tournament. It didn't end up breaking down that way. But a good opportunity, I think, during those June friendlies to try to get another final look at some of the energy that they might be facing in this tournament. But we're talking about a completely we're talking about a completely different beast, quite frankly, when you are getting ready to go up against the United States.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? It is a different beast.
Yeah.
Frankly, it is. And Costa Rica, they've seen this United States side a number of times before. You talked about it, the Olympic qualifying, World Cup qualifying, and there's a little bit more on the line, and it's a different stake because the United States is winning their games, but they're also not like dominating them. We also saw Ashley Hatch have to go back to the States from Monterrey, Mexico due to an injury. Costa Rica dealing with something incredibly similar. They had to make an injury replacement during this championship. Goalkeeper Priscilla Tapia, who had yet to see action throughout this tournament, she suffered a hand injury. So she had to return to Costa Rica or go back home. And she was replaced by 17-year-old goalkeeper Genesis Perez. So there's also that mental side of it for Costa Rica. I think about that in terms of the U.S., but now Costa Rica has to deal with it as well. Like personnel shift up. If that was your roommate, now your roommate's gone, you're going to get a new roommate. Like it's different to bring someone else into a roster that hasn't been there. Perez doesn't know what this team has went throughout the group stages. Now heading into the semifinal. But you talked about if Costa Rica can hold the United States scoreless in the first 20 minutes, the first 25 minutes, I think if they go back and watch the United States versus Mexico game, I think that's a great telling because Mexico held the U.S. scoreless until the 89th minute. But a lot of that came in the first half, the opportunity that Midge Purse got. But Mexico defensively did an incredible job, and Costa Rica can learn a lot from watching that match. And even watching against Haiti and Jamaica, how they were able to stifle the United States attack and keep it down a little bit and see how the United States, where their weakest points are, where they like to attack. And you can learn a lot from watching those games. But I think specifically against the United States versus Mexico in that game, Costa Rica can learn a lot about defensively, how it's got to be against the United States, and it's got to be tough. It has got to be gritty. It's got to be all out. But they know it's a different beast. But going from Canada to the United States is good for Costa Rica because it's almost like this build up in progression and intensity of the opposition now as they head into the semifinal.
Yep. Honestly, I think it's something that we're going to have to, maybe when the game kicks off, we'll have to take note of and sort of have those prior performances a little bit in the back of our minds, just to sort of see like how Costa Rica is going to try to present themselves against the United States. I think we'll know a lot, I think, in the opening 15 minutes or so. But all love to Costa Rica. I hope they come out and make this a game. There's still, like I said, there's still Olympics on the line. There's still Gold Cup spot on the line. And, they didn't get this far just to hopefully lie down. So I'm eager to see how they line up against the United States women's national team.